Good morning, everybody. You'll remember yesterday that I was here on my knees playing the character of George because he was praying that Grandma wasn't going to keep growing up and up out through the roof. Well, today we're going to find out what actually did happen. Here we go. George was kneeling in the farmyard, looking up at the roof. The old farmhouse had a fine roof of pale red tiles and tall chimneys. There was no sign of Grandma just yet. There was only a bird sitting on one of the chimney pots singing a song. George thought, there appears to be no Grandma. Maybe she stopped. Thank goodness for that. She has stopped growing. This is wonderful news. But then suddenly, a tile came clattering down from the roof and fell next to George in the yard. And the bird that was singing took off fast and flew away. Then came another tile, then half a dozen more. George had to take cover from the falling tiles, and then very slowly, like some weird monster rising up from the deep, Grandma's head came through the roof, followed by her scrawny neck, and then her scrawny shoulders. "How am I doing, boys?" she shouted. "How's that for a bash-up?" Don't you think you better stop now, Grandma?" George called out. "I've stopped. I feel terrific. Didn't I tell you, boy, I've got magic powers? Didn't I warn you I had wizardry in the tips of my fingers? Oh, but now you wouldn't listen to me, would you? You wouldn't listen to your Grandma." "You didn't do this yourself, Grandma," George shouted back to her. "I did it. I made you a new kind of medicine." "A new medicine? You? What rubbish." I did, Grandma. It's true." "You're lying as usual. You're always lying." "I'm not lying, Grandma. I swear I'm not lying." The wrinkled old face high up on the roof stared down suspiciously at George. "Are you telling me you made a new medicine by yourself?" she shouted. "Yes, Grandma, that's exactly it. I did it all by myself for you." "I don't believe you. I'm very comfortable up here anyway. I'll tell you what, George, I'll have a cup of tea." Cup of tea at this moment, George thought. And just as that happened, a brown hen was pecking about in the yard close to where George was standing. The hen gave him an idea. So quickly he uncorked the medicine bottle and he poured some of the brown stuff into the spoon. "Watch this, Grandma!" he shouted. He crouched down and he held out the spoon he'd used before to the hen. "Chicken," he said. "Tick, tick, 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 chicken. Come here. Have some of this." Now, chickens can be stupid birds and they can be very greedy. They think everything is food. This one thought the spoon was full of corn. It hopped over, it put its head on one side, and it looked at the spoon. "Come on, chicken. Good chicken. Good little chicken. Chick, 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 chicken." The brown hen stretched out its neck towards the spoon and went peck, and it took a beakful of the medicine. The effect was electric. Just like Grandma had said before. "Awee!" shrieked the hen, and it shot straight up into the air just like a rocket. It went as high as the house, and then down it came again into the yard. And there it sat, with its feathers all sticking straight out from its body. There was a look of shock and amazement on its silly face. George stood watching it. Grandma up on the roof was watching it too. The hen got to its feet and it was rather shaky. It was making funny gurgling noises in its throat. Its beak was open and shutting. It seemed like a pretty sick hen. Something like this. See if you like my chicken impression. Oh, oh, oh. There you go. That's a shocked chicken impression. Bet you never thought your head teacher would do that. You've done it, you stupid boy, Grandma shouted. That hen's going to die now. Your father will be after you. He'll give you some real telling off, and it will serve you right. All of a sudden, black smoke started pouring out the hen's beak. It's on fire! The hen's now on fire! George ran to the water trough to get a bucket of water. The hen will be roasted! Roast chicken for tea, everyone! Grandma shouted. George sloshed a bucket of water over the hen. There was a sizzling sound and the smoke went away. Old hen's laid its last egg. Hens don't do laying when they've been on fire though, do they, George? Grandma said. Now that the fire was out, the hen seemed better. It stood up properly, it flapped its wings, and then it crouched down low to the ground, as though getting ready to jump. And it did jump. It jumped high in the air and turned a complete somersault, then landed back on its feet. It's a circus hen now, is it, George? Laughed Grandma. It's a flipping acrobat. And then, just like what happened to Grandma, the hen began to grow. George had been waiting for this stage to happen. It's growing, he yelled. It's growing, Grandma, look, it's growing just like you have. Bigger and bigger, taller and taller. Soon the hen was 4 or 5 times the size it should be. Can you see it, Grandma? Of course I can see it, boy. I'm stood watching it with my head out the roof. George was hopping about from one foot to the other with excitement, pointing at the enormous hen and shouting, It's had the magic medicine, Grandma. It's growing like you did. But there was a difference between the way the hen was growing and the way Grandma grew. When Grandma grew taller and taller, she got thinner and thinner. The hen didn't. It stayed nice and plump all the way through. Soon it was taller than George, but it didn't stop there. It went right on growing until it was about as big as a horse. Then it stopped. Doesn't it look marvellous, Grandma? George shouted. No, it's not as tall as me. Compared with me, that hen is still titchy small. I'm the tallest of them all. So we now have an extremely large chicken, an extremely tall Grandma, and George somewhere between excited and terrified. I just don't know what's going to happen next. But stay tuned, and the next time we meet, we'll find out what indeed does happen in the next stage of George's adventure. P.S. I hope you like the crazy chicken routine. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. See you soon.